Hello everyone, Violet here, and I hope you're feeling cozy. I myself have a golden milk latte. My son is fast asleep in bed, and my husband is off playing an opera till late at night. And I literally had to peel myself away from reading because I am deep in the middle of a book, and it was hard for me to put it down, even like to get my son ready for bed, honestly. But I suddenly felt inspired. So here I am. I'm making a video, and I'm gonna go back to reading after this. But I felt inspired to make a video because one of my first like reading videos on this channel, like booktube kind of videos, which I have a variety channel, so I do a lot of different things. But it was on the Once Upon a Broken Heart series, and I finally turned around and picked up Caraval because I read Once Upon a Broken Heart before Caraval. And so now I have finished the Caraval series and I am rereading Once Upon a Broken Heart. And I just thought to go full circle and come back here on YouTube, since I've, been making videos on all sorts of stuff, not necessarily books, in a while. And I just thought, wow, I should give an update on how my reading and writing life, because that's related to just, I don't know, some musings, some thoughts. So welcome in. So I was enjoying Caraval so much, the series, and it made me really realize that I think I found my particular genre for reading for pleasure. Now, I read a lot of nonfiction for study reasons, like for things that I'm studying, especially spiritual topics, esoterica, that sort of a thing. And I think I've said this before, but I'm very much like an art with a capital A kind of person. And I have that appreciation for literature as well. I really do. But I think that for reading for pleasure, since I read such heavy, dense material a lot for nonfiction stuff, that I kind of need something sort of light and fluffy and enjoyable to read. So for fiction, I think that that's kind of more the direction I'm going in. And I've read a lot of romantasy. And I think that I've realized, especially this last round with reading the Caraval series, I've realized that I actually enjoy the more closed door romance more. So romantasy has kind of gotten this reputation for these, really intense graphic scenes. But I'm not even just talking about like sexually. I'm also talking about like the sort of violence. And now what I really appreciated with the Caraval series, for example, is that the romance was really intense. Like there was no lack of heat. You just weren't like seeing it, hearing it so graphically on the page. And similarly, it's like when there was an act of violence, it like really meant something. It wasn't just like sort of pounding you over the head with like a lot of violence, like what happens in some of the Sarah J. Maas books. So closed door within the romance genre specifically would mean that kind of that the more like graphic sex scenes is like it happens, maybe it's alluded to, but I find that actually because I want a lot of romance, but what I appreciate the characters, the dialogue, the tension, the like leading up to something, wondering like, are they going to like each other, all sorts of things that have more to do with the plot, more to do with the character building than the actual scenes themselves. So like I'm okay with having that be the main thing. And I honestly wasn't actually sure if anyone really felt the same way, because I feel like most of the sentiment is like, oh, how much spice is like in this book or that book. And I was realizing like I was wondering the same thing before I would read something, but I think I was also sort of preparing myself for like, okay, what am I getting into when I read this? And I upon doing some searches, I realized that, oh, actually, there are quite a lot of people who feel the same way. And actually, I found like an amazing resource on Reddit, for example, and it just has like a whole list of books that are specifically romantasy, not young adult, like for adults romantasy, with more so closed door in the romance angle. Oh, and also just to briefly say, like, I realize that, you know, there are kind of like different versions of this sort of a genre. There's romantasy, there's fantasy romance, and there's romance fantasy. I think anyway, there are different versions of this, and I'm saying this with a broad stroke, is that I love world building. I love world building. I love really interesting you know, characters and imaginative magical worlds. So I do pick up a book for that. It's not just the romance and just wanting it in a particular setting, but like I also want these really enriching, imaginative, inspiring worlds as well. So the fantasy part of it is important too. But again, like it doesn't have to be a really dense book that it takes a long time to get into. I do appreciate that when I have the time for it. And I think I'm just talking about this like very specific sort of reading for pleasure when I'm needing to wind down and I'm about to go to sleep or something. So let me know if you have any recommendations, especially in taking a look at this list. If you've read anything on here, do let me know, because I'm trying to find my way and see what I like. At one point earlier, I was inspired by so many videos I made myself. I love making games. If you've been around the channel long enough, you know about, like, I made a card game. Anyway, I love making games, so I made myself like a TBR board game. And maybe I just need to use something like that and kind of get myself oriented into all of these recommendations, like wonderful recommendations I'm sure that people put up there. So one of the reasons why I really want to read books with really interesting worlds and fantasy and magical elements is that I'm really inspired to make that myself. Like, I've actually, and this can now kind of turn into more of like a writing update. I'm working in the back of my mind, a lot of the time, the back of my mind, and very little actually on paper actually done in this way, is a dark academia fantasy world. And I realized that I think that I'm most inspired by setting first. I have this amazing book on like character versus plot, and like what are you drawn towards as a writer. And again and again and again, it's like the setting first, it's the world building. And I was realizing I sort of have this apprehension because I'm in the middle of not really the middle, I'm towards the end of a huge writing project of a novel, my first novel, and I'll tell you more about that at the end of the video. But knowing like how big of a process it was to like bring this one kind of small book actually to bring it to life makes me feel a little apprehensive about like starting on a series, which is how I imagine this next project. And I've just decided I'm going to take off all weight and responsibility of this. If I just want to have fun building a world, that's okay. And like coming up with characters and imagining plot lines within this world, and even if that's as far as I get, that's okay. So I'm kind of deciding to set out on a journey rather than having like a very specific end goal and then kind of working back from there, just letting it see where it takes me. So let me know if any of you relate to that, or if that's helpful to anyone, because sometimes I feel like just even the thought of like taking off the responsibility a little bit and letting yourself play and be creative can be really helpful. I've really found that helpful when other people have expressed that. It's like, oh wait, yeah, I can do that. I can sort of free myself up. So I've been thinking about creative ways to do this, and one is using my tarot decks. So I have a huge tarot and oracle deck collection that I've recently like really pared down, but I have all of these tarot decks, and I was just thinking, wow, this would be a great way actually to build a world, is to pull cards, what would happen, or character building. Like, say even just something that's popping into my head now is like a 3-card spread, maybe pulling a card for like, something really striking about that character. Here's a card. What is their weakness? Another card. What's their goal? Another card. And then like what happens when you use the cards in that way as sort of like prompts, and then depending on the deck you choose, like using different imagery. So I'm sure that this has been done, and I definitely want to like look up and find all of the inspiration for this, but I was thinking, wow, that would be really great to just like use the cards in tandem with world building, because they're so artistic and they're so archetypal, and like, the hero's journey is in the cards, and I'm just imagining how useful that would be in this world of creating story and creating a world. So lastly, an update on my novel. And I do feel like I owe this to my channel, because I did a video every single day for NaNoWriMo 2021 when I first wrote it. And this book, like I said, it's like small. It's the only thing I've done. I don't have any writing background or training or anything, but it's been a long time coming. And I realized that it was originally in 2015 when I even had the idea for it. And then in 2020, when my son was born, it just hit me like, oh, it needs another character. Like, that's why I hadn't been able to actually get it off the ground. It needed another character. And so then I built the story around the main character that I'd already, created and had been thinking about, and then imagining my son at age 7, and he was going to be kind of like the other character to the main character. And so my goal has been to get this finished by his 7th birthday, which is next year. Oh my goodness. Really coming up fast. It really does go by fast. I'm going to cry like thinking about that. But anyway, so I wrote it all in 1 month. I wrote a chapter every single day. It's a middle grade novel. And then it took me, I was distracted by so many different things, but it took me up until the end of this last school year, when I severely sprained my ankle. I couldn't even move. I was just like stuck, totally stuck in bed or on a couch for like a week and a half to actually go through and like really fully edit it. I'd done one round of like reading through and editing, and this was more so like, okay, like how clean can I get it myself? Luckily, my husband has gotten some experience actually in book editing and proofreading and layouts recently. He has a part-time job at a book publisher, so he's gonna do kind of the final sweep. But I was able to get it to a point, it was like I was stuck and I couldn't do anything else. So that is what I did, and I think it was a blessing in disguise. Even though just this past weekend I twisted my ankle again, the same one, because it's like vulnerable and it hasn't fully healed. But anyway, I'll take it. I finally finished it. I was like, whoa, this has been so long coming, this novel. So over the summer, I guess the big update is that I had three different kids read the book. It's middle grade, so directly they're going into 4th grade, all 3 of them. They're going into 4th grade. They're exactly the target audience. They read the book over the summer. I've been getting feedback back. It's been really good. It's been really helpful. It's been really encouraging. And so I guess that's the big update for my novel. It is available in its full, most latest form. It's available on my Patreon. So that's available for anyone there. And yeah, so I gave it to a few other people for beta reading too. And so I'm just thinking that kind of this next year, maybe feedback will be coming back from people beta reading it. My husband will be going through it with a fine-tooth comb. And then hopefully I'll be able to give it as a gift to my son, self-publishing it, giving it to my son when he turns 7. So that is the goal. Anyway, so all things books. Thanks for hanging out and talking to me about books. And I just thought it might be a fun video to talk about all the things that, have been interesting me and inspiring. And I'm curious if any of you feel the same about anything, or, and, any thoughts that you have. And thanks so much for hanging out. I hope that you have a lovely rest of your day or evening. I'll see you next time.